Morning, sir. Okay, everybody's here. This isn't a commission meeting notice, but I wanna let you guys know something. 11 days ago, I was at a small wedding, and a couple of people have since tested positive. I wasn't by those two people that I'm aware of. I mean, the two people that have supposedly been tested positive. Several members of my family went in and got tested, and they've all come back, to my knowledge, of all, the ones that I know have all come back negative. But that's why I'm wearing the mask and I'm wiping everything that I do.
Did you get tested?
We got the, new blue one.
That's because you've got yours on.
You're gonna make me look? Mine on backwards?
Oh, I don't know.
No.
There's a front to the back.
No, Turkey made me look. Good move.
Well,
Well, somebody tested positive in Mercer County again, so.
yeah, we're gonna start increasing.
Well, this was working really good before, now I'm fogging up.
We just take your glasses off, you'll be okay.
I'm sorry, sir, I'm getting a little old for that.
Too old.
Let's just see what happens if I take them off. How about if I put a different pair on?
How many fingers am I holding up?
4.
Yeah, you got her.
He brings levity to the greetings all the time. It's 9 o'clock, everybody. We'd like to call our meeting to order. Shanna, will you please do roll call?
Dwight,
Aye.
Wayne,
Here.
Dwayne,
Here.
Marvin,
Here.
Merlin.
Here.
Okay. Next thing on the order of business is to approve the agenda. And I noticed that there was a small correction, which is a good one, that the landfill truck was crossed out and is actually the landfill tractor bid.
I'd like to add, we need to address the polling places and the campaign as such.
That would go under the budget part, correct?
I don't care where you put it. Could
Polling.
be added under other business.
Huh?
Polling places and campaigning.
Yep.
We'll see, it'll be under other business, we'll see, we can't cover that this morning.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir?
I had a question. How, is it really necessary to have a 2-hour lunch break, or can we just keep going with the agenda and get done?
If we change the time, I believe, I don't know that, I believe if we change the times on the agenda now, we would be okay. Is that correct?
Well, the public was noticed that it was gonna be at 1, so if anybody was intending on coming, it'd be at 1 o'clock.
That's exactly the problem there.
Why is Gordon Newmiller under public input on preliminary budget review?
Has he asked to be on there?
For the budget review?
So, at this point, we have to leave it as is, otherwise we'll screw with the public, and they've been notified. Now, okay, that's all I can say.
Thank you.
Yep. Are there any other additions or changes to the agenda?
Is there one of these that we need to, talk about the time set for the final budget hearing?
We did that at that last commission meeting, Mr. Chairman.
I know if he wants to talk about it again, that we can always bring it up again. And there's no reason that we cannot, so. What was your question? You wanted to know about the time for the last budget meeting?
For the final budget hearing. I believe it's 10:30 in the morning now.
We'll put it under other business also.
Okay. And with that, I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
We have a second.
Second?
Any more discussion? Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye. Sorry, Dwayne,
Aye.
Merlin,
Aye.
Wayne,
Aye.
Dwayne,
Aye.
and I say aye. Motion passed. Next thing is to approve the minutes of August 19th. Does anyone have any corrections?
Well, I don't know how you'd ever put it in there, but I know if I asked once, I asked 3 times how much our increase is gonna be in the taxes. And I don't see it in there even once.
I do have some corrections I want, and I want these added to the minutes. On the very last page, the second to the last paragraph, said binder added the sheriff's office is open 24/7, and it does not affect the functions of the sheriff's department. I made several comments after that, they're not here, and in fairness, that one side states a discussion, the other side should also meet. So I have this statement that I want to hand to Shannon, I want to put it in there. Now, let's do that first. Then I'll bring something else up that I did wrong. Schwer stated the hallway has the largest bathrooms. Closing this hallway forces the public to use a smaller bathroom and having more department exposed to COVID and even possibly the lunchroom. Schwer stated he wanted it in the minutes, he wants this hallway open. I just reviewed the webcam this morning, so these were there. And that's where I want these statements included in those 2 statements. I want them included right after binder added sheriff's office is open 24/7. It does not affect the functions of the sheriff's department. I just want those 2 little statements put in there. And I'll give this to Shanna too. And I have a motion to accept the minutes as revised.
So moved?
I'll second.
Any more discussion? Any more discussion? Merlin, how do you vote?
Aye.
Dwight?
Aye.
Wayne?
I'll vote aye.
Dwayne?
Aye.
And I vote aye, motion passed. Next thing is do you need a copy of this? I just put some stuff on the bottom for my own stuff, but there's only 2 comments there.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Oh, I wanted to add something about the minutes. Shanna has requested several times that we get this done prior to this meeting. It's a fair request. I did not do it, and I apologize to her for that. Okay. All right, next thing is to review the bills. Mailing out those notices is pretty expensive, isn't it? Okay, does anybody have any suggestions or questions on the treasurers? If not, I'd entertain a motion to accept the treasurer's bills.
I'll make a motion to accept the treasurer's bill.
Do I have a second?
Second that, Mr. Chairman.
Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Dwayne, how do you vote?
I vote aye.
Wayne?
I vote aye.
Merlin?
Aye.
I vote aye, motion passed. There'd be no further discussion regarding the regular bills, I'd entertain a motion to accept.
Hang on a minute now. Number $37, is that a monthly thing?
I don't know for sure, Dwight, I don't think it's a monthly thing.
I don't think it is either.
What's that?
I don't think it's monthly either. I think
No.
it's just as needed.
It's pretty close to monthly.
Well, even, when they wash their hands, they dump the water outside so they don't fill up the septic tank, so they're trying to minimize the
Usage.
use of, water there.
Where is the septic tank?
It's buried.
No, I've got that, but where, to be physically from this building, is it for this building?
Yeah,
Oh, okay, I'm just curious.
Well, that's,
there's not a drain field anyway.
No drain field.
then it's a holding tank, it's
It's a
not a
holding
septic
tank, not a
tank.
septic tank,
Yeah,
that makes
yeah.
perfect sense.
There you go.
So as needed is totally true.
Yeah.
Okay, holding tank. All right, still looking for a motion to approve the regular bills.
So moved?
Do I have a second?
Second that, Mr. Chairman.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
What's number 42? I'm guessing it's Kathy Johnson, WDALA.
I do believe so. Let me look. Yep.
Any further discussion?
What is it, Shanna?
It's her dues, her membership renewal for Western Dakota Association of Legal Assistants.
Oh, I see where you're at. Any further discussion?
And number 20, that's the annual premium for insurance?
Nope, that's our state fire and tornado premium for insurance. Our annual premium is in February.
Well, what's the one from Farmers Union Insurance?
Well, their state fire and tornado is now NDERF, and Candy Lindeman is our NDERF, is our Farmers Union and agent through NDRF
I guess the question is, how often is that paid?
yearly.
Oh, okay, thank you. Yeah. So it's an annual. Any further discussion? There being no further discussion, I'll entertain a motion to accept the regular bills.
You had one already.
I'm sorry, we got a Rick, Merlin did and Wayne seconded. Merlin, how do you vote?
Aye.
Wayne?
Aye.
Dwayne?
Aye.
Dwight?
Aye.
I vote aye, motion passed. Audit concerns,
That's at 9:30.
it's at 9:30?
Yeah.
Well, doggone it, we're walking through this pretty good. Let's look at the, landfill job opening. Or does Candy wanna be here for that?
Do I put it on the agenda?
Yeah, I got a problem with that not being in the paper. I would think you would be out there and try and get the most qualified applicants that you can find to apply. And that's not what happens if it isn't out to the public.
Well, job service, I reviewed all the applications, there was way over 10. And, all of them, I would say, were local people. And the reason she didn't put it in the paper because it costs money.
Yeah.
And, she's trying to save money. So there was a good variety of applicants
What happens, I mean, Dwayne, being a veteran, what happens if a veteran is looking for this job opening and don't see it in the paper?
if they're looking for a job, they're going to job service.
You're sure about that?
I'm quite sure. And there is no such thing as veterans,
Veteran priority?
no,
Preference.
not
Yes,
anymore.
there is.
Not anymore.
Yeah.
That's not even on the application at job service.
It's
And
in
this-
our handbook.
Well, and this is pretty much a done deal because.
No, it's not a done deal, not by any means.
Let me answer this. We did interviews last Thursday, based on what Candace selected from the applicants, and she is going to make a decision as to who she selected. If not, then she's going to do some more interviews, but I left it up to her. I don't know, I didn't see any of the applicants, there was no question on there about veterans' preference. That's
You
from,
can't put the questions on the application, but it's in our policy manual.
it's on the job service application.
Dwayne, is Candace an appointed official?
Yes,
It's non-transparent and it's unethical from the human resource standpoint.
well, I think there's a lot of things that are unethical around here, and I'm not going to.
Okay, Dwayne, I'm gonna ask you, what is the state statute requirement for posting county jobs?
There isn't one.
Pardon?
I
There
asked
isn't one.
Dwayne if he had,
I'll defer to Shannon, what, do you know what?
I discussed this with the state's attorney, there isn't a statute on it. It was posted on job service from July 30th to August 14th.
There's no consistency. One time it's in the paper, the next time it isn't in the paper.
It's up to the department if they have the money to pay for the ads.
okay,
It should be up to you. You're a human resource person, aren't you in charge of that?
Well, where am I gonna take the money out of?
Take it out of their fund. The landfill's unlevied.
You're right.
There's no
it is.
end.
Let's stop the argument. If you're not recognized by the chair, we're not gonna yell back and forth, okay? That's just what we're gonna do. If anybody wants to speak, you need to be recognized by the chair. You can have some order. I disagree with this practice, Dwayne. And I read other county commission minutes. As in my opinion, as an appointed official, she can review the applicants and bring her suggestion to the committee, and we will have some input on that. As a county commission, we all appointed her. This is the way I see the policy, the way things are supposed to be.
Mr. Chairman, can I add to that?
Just a second, please. Yes, you may. Just a second, please. The other thing is, I do believe this should be posted in our county official newspaper. We post everything in our county official paper and most stuff in there. And even if it's not required by statute, to me, it should be a consistent practice as we do other things. Go ahead, Shannon, yes.
Yes, the commission has appointed Candy as the department head for the landfill, which therefore gives her the hiring and firing authority for her department. And that's spelled out in our policy handbook.
Will you go read that for me, please?
I'm gonna have to go get it.
Mr. Chairman, I was not involved in posting this position. I left it up to her since she's the department head.
Yeah, we're not trying to point finger, I'm just trying to say, as a county, what would be the best practice?
And she's gonna make the decision as to who she's gonna hire that fits the job. And that's the way it's always been.
The way it's always been, I hear that,
Good.
I've heard that comment for so many months already.
Coming in here, Mr. Chairman, to have every commissioner involved in hiring a person is not a good practice. It's just,
Let Shannon find it for us, please.
Employees are hired by elected officials / department heads with the approval of the commission or within the guidelines authorized.
What page is that on and what subsection?
It's on page 1 under introductory, which she had approval to hire because she was replacing.
Okay, just a second, just read it, what's in there.
That's what it says.
Okay, just read it for me again, please.
Employees are hired by elected officials and department heads with the approval of the commission,
Okay, with the approval of the commission.
which means you authorize the position so they,
No, that's your interpretation, Shannon, that is not mine. My interpretation says that with the approval of the commission, that I would be able to review the applicants also.
no.
That's my interpretation on that.
Well, then I guess we're gonna need legal
I
opinion on it.
disagree. This is ridiculous because we're micromanaging here when, the landfill supervisor knows what's consistent with the job and what she's looking for. The rest of us don't.
It's not micromanaging, it's just managing, and that's
It's
part of our.
micromanaging, yes.
Well, that's fine. Okay. I'm gonna make it, I want it on record that I am opposed to Candace hiring this individual because it was not posted in the official newspaper of the county. And I believe the commissioners should have the right to review the applicants of recommendation. I want that in the minutes, please. Is there any more discussion on the landfill job opening?
Mr. Chairman, I'm sure there are other entities that have filled positions too. And I don't think we've seen them also in the newspaper. And I don't want to sit here and nitpick things apart, but what's good for the goose might be good for the gander. The other part is, these people are paid a pretty decent salary, all these department heads. You got the salary sheet right in front of you. I don't myself, like Dwayne says, the road department or the landfill, they know what kind of individuals they need. As a commissioner, I gave them the authority to hire the best qualified individual they can hire. It doesn't hurt for us to review them as the portfolio holder, but other than that, I think we got better things to do with our time, I'm sorry to say.
Okay. Do I have a motion to accept Candy proceeding with this?
I don't think we need one.
We didn't make a motion.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to know what other county opening hasn't been posted in the paper. And secondly, we're 2 years away from 500 people getting laid off at the coal mine and the power plant. And we only had 10 applicants? That don't add up.
I don't know what the number is. This is 2 years down the road, like, with the coal mine. We're talking about today. I don't know if the number is 10, but there might have been more. I kind of left those duties up to the supervisor of the landfill, and, let the supervisor make the judgment as to, do the interviews and to select the person she feels that's fit for the job.
Mr. Chairman, I would also like my statement put in there that the posting for the landfill job opening is both untransparent and unethical.
I'm making a motion. I move that the position of landfill opening not be selected until the posting goes through our official county paper.
I will second that motion.
Do we have any more discussion?
How much, Mr. Chairman? Is that position needed out there right away, or can it wait for the paper and for another month or so to go by?
Oh, I can't really wait. They're down with 2 employees there, and our,
One, since July 28th, she's been short, one employee.
and if somebody gets sick or has vacation or whatever, they're left with 1 employee. And they have duties they have to do to cover the garbage and also man the scale house and telephones. I just don't even agree with this motion, Mr. Chairman. This interview process went through and is done. Now to back up and I mean, in the past, there were openings at the highway department. You can go further into departments in the courthouse here. They weren't posted in the newspaper. So, we better look at all of them, but as far as I'm concerned, this one is done. She's gonna make the decision and leave it up to the supervisor we hired for the job.
Merlin, in answer to your question, is this position needed? I think that should have been asked when they very first posted it, and should have been done at that time, so.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I wasn't asking whether it was needed or not, I'm just was asking, well, we have a position, we've had the interviews and open now, if, I was asking if we don't fill that or whatever for another month or so, if, the business of the landfill will suffer, that's what I wanna know.
Good question.
It will.
Okay. I was not aware that this, in my own error maybe, but I was not aware this wasn't in the official paper. How business has been done in the past, doesn't mean that it's always been correct. I'm not saying it's incorrect, but it may not be correct either. So I put the motion on, we have a second. Is there any further discussion? Any further discussion? I vote aye. Dwight?
Aye.
Dwayne?
Can you read the motion you made?
Yep, for the position at the landfill to not be selected until the posting is in the official newspaper.
Until it goes through our official county paper.
I vote no.
Wayne?
I'll vote no.
Merlin?
Nay.
Motion failed. Thank you. We've got 3 minutes. Let's talk about the polling places and campaigning. Dwight, you brought that up?
Yeah, I just wanted to address this letter that we got from the tribe about polling places.
I didn't get a letter.
Do you have a copy?
Well, it was laying on our desk,
Oh, in that plastic packet.
Okay.
not in the plastic.
Thank you.
It wasn't in the plastic either.
What was it in?
It was laying on the table, wasn't it?
It was laying right in front of me, I guess.
That's not from the tribe, that's from Doug Goring.
This one here's from Doug Goring. This is what I'm looking
I
at.
don't know what he's
North
talking about.
Dakota Native Vote, the name on the top of it.
I don't have that. And then
Wes Davis, Chair, North Dakota Native Vote.
Was it addressed to you?
It's addressed greetings.
I don't have that. You want copies?
Yes, please.
Do you want to take care of that?
Okay, we're gonna move on to our regular agenda up there at 9:30. We still have a quorum here.
$1.25 for the copies.
What? It's for county business.
Yeah, what's going on with that $1.25 deal?
Who charged you $1.25?
Just making funny.
Oh, careful with that.
September Fool's Day.
Okay, Dwight, it's 9:30. I'd like to go back to our regular business if
That's
we
fine.
can come back to this.
Fine.
Okay. Audit concerns, I put that on there, I just want the commission to know that when we see, as a commissioner, we're responsible for the fiscal affairs of the county. And part of what I wanted to do was to get the audit to answer a bunch of questions that I had. We did not get an audit this year. So I'm just letting the commission know that I've made a list of audit concerns, and I'm going to present them to the nor to the state auditor's department. Just let them aware of what my concerns are.
Mr. Chairman, may I get a list of those from you, or a copy of it?
Absolutely.
Or you can make we can make copies, I guess.
Okay.
We don't need to take your only one, so you're skunked.
Is this something that needs a motion, I would say?
No,
For
I
you
just-
to work as one on behalf of the commission?
I'm not talking as a committee, I'm talking as an individual and as a commissioner.
I don't think you get to choose that.
I am a taxpayer too, Shanna, and as that, if that's the case, then I'm gonna present these as a taxpayer. I'm letting the commissioner know that I'm going to do that. It's on the agenda. I do not understand why there would be opposition for full disclosure with our tax department. I just don't get that. Okay, that's all I had at 9:30 for the audit concerns, all right? Dwight, we're back to that sheet of paper you had.
Well, it's just something that we need to be aware of.
Now, this came, no date on it, I see.
It wasn't just directed at Mercer County, it was statewide.
Mhm. Yeah, we've been dealing with this North Dakota native vote, with records requests and such. And also, there's been several lawsuits back and forth between Secretary of State Jager and different groups. And so during the election time, we keep a log if anybody is unable to vote. If somebody's driver's license doesn't match what we have in our poll book, or they can't bring supplemental identification, like a utility bill or something, we do allow everybody to vote on election day. And then they have up until canvassing time to bring into my office the supplemental identification so that their vote does count. So as the election officials of the state, all of us, we are doing what we can to ensure that everybody does get to vote, and we're keeping logs of all of it.
I guess I have, on the same subject, mail in your ballot on Friday and go early vote on Monday. Who's ever gonna know the difference?
Well, we would.
Huh?
We would, because it's in our system that we've mailed you a ballot. So in order to get another ballot, you would have to bring back your spoiled ballot to receive a different one.
Okay, that's, answers that. And as far, huh?
Everything's logged in our system from the day we mail it. You can pull up your name and your information, and you can see exactly, track your ballot from me to you and back to me.
And as far as the campaigning part of it, I think that there's, we all got letters or emails from Jessica Binder on the rules and stuff for campaigning and how to do it and how it should be done, how it shouldn't be done. There's a lot of letters floating around out there that I think are beyond what can be done and what can't be done.
Okay, and as the election official, I would tell you to turn those over to the state's attorney then for review.
Have you been getting letters, or
Huh?
have you been getting letters or something, or I haven't seen any of those, or whatever?
You haven't?
No,
My Merlin.
I must be off the mailing list.
Even Beulah Chamber of Commerce is distributing them.
No, really, I haven't seen any of those.
Here's one from Sheriff Dean Dansizen. If that isn't a campaign, I don't know what is. And there's more.
Well, he doesn't have anything to be campaigning for.
Yes, he does.
What? He's not up for election?
Campaigning for support for his sheriff's department, and there are people running that will support the sheriff's department.
you have any legal opinion on that?
Okay, it's fine. Do you have any
You
more
can keep it
discussion?
If you want it, I got more.
Do you?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's it.
Okay. 9:36. Still got a couple more minutes. I think we added, and maybe I made a mistake when I was writing down, but thought we added time for final budget hearing?
Yeah, I've been getting some emails and stuff why this final budget hearing is when people can't, that work day jobs can attend. It used to be in the evening.
No, it was never in the evening. The
It
mill
was at
levy,
6 o'clock in the
the
evening.
mill levy hearing, the hearing on mill levy was in the evening. Since I've been the auditor, the budget hearing has always been at 10:30
No.
on a commission day. It has. And I can pull all the minutes for the last however many years to show that since I've been the auditor, that's how it's been done.
I can do that too. I can get the ads out of the paper.
That's for the mill levy hearing. Those were two.
Same
separate-
difference.
It was not. It was.
It's a
two
final budget hearing.
The final budget hearing was always done during a commission meeting in the morning.
Whatever. Just for the record, I did address the time. I think it should be in the evening when people can attend without taking off work. Why don't we have it at 8 o'clock in the morning?
Okay. On this, budget hearing, we have sent out tax notices. It's I read my tax unless I read it incorrectly. I didn't? It states when the meeting will be, so everybody's been notified in every way that we know of that this is going to occur at 10:30 on that date. There's no way that I can that can be changed, in my opinion anyways. I would like to, I also have received phone calls and requests, even a guy driving in my yard, that why don't you guys do this in the evening so workers can go? So what I'd like to do is just make a note that next year, let's discuss possibly doing this in the evening for the hearing, so more public can attend.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
can we go back to this letter from Wes Davis regarding the election?
Yes.
And just kind of a side note on here, I know that sometimes it's tough for not only Native Americans, but others to get around to do voting, and I know that, like it says in the letter, there's been drop boxes placed. I was just wondering if we can check the league, not for this election, but for in the future, for these drop boxes, whether or not a drop box for Mercer County election things can be put into a Dunn County box, because I would think Twin Buttes area is one they're probably talking about the most. And of course, that's, Twin Buttes itself is in Dunn County. So, you know, I would think anything we can do to help people out, like I said, whether Native American, non-Native American, or whoever, just citizens can do this type of a thing, so.
Just to add to that, Merlin, I have 7 eligible voters in that precinct 401, and 5 out of the 7 do the vote by mail. So
Okay.
it's,
Yeah, it's a small area, you know, but
Yeah.
I'm just thinking,
Yeah. And we can, I would just have to get away over there to get the ballots that are dropped there on election day.
Okay. Any final discussion on the time for final budget hearing? Okay, that subject is closed. It's 10:40, time for our treasurer's report. I'm sorry, 9:40.
are you on Eastern Standard Time?
Yeah.
Okay. I haven't changed
You guys wanna read the front part of that?
Take a peek if yours, Dan.
Sure.
Oh, thanks, Ernie.
We had, it's the ins and the outs for each month. The numbers reflect just the monies that come into our office or the monies that the auditor office expends. They reflect no transfers. The receipts on this page include any money that comes into the office, either as ACH, cash, or check, and the expenditures. So for each month, that's what's on the final month's balance sheet. August 31st, our receipts were 1.2, our total payments were 1.1. We started the year with 7.12 million.
Did you
We're
hand,
down to,
did you hand us out one of those balance sheets for August one?
oh, I didn't, but on the back of it,
I didn't see it.
think about that.
Don't want you to carry it all the way back for nothing, you know? Thank you. Thank you.
Sorry, Jan, I gotta have this one. I'll give it to you when I'm done. You would have a copy.
Yep, I got it.
Okay,
This is our end of August balance sheet.
okay,
We took in 1.2, put out 1.1. We are carrying to the next month 6.2. This total here on the bottom is what's carried over to the next month. That's how much money we have.
Was there a, I guess that was a couple months past, but, there was 7.1 according to the,
We don't have 7.1.
well, that's what's on the propaganda sheet.
We have $4.8 million in savings. This money here, this 6.2 reflects that and the cash in the bank.
say that again. How much do we have in our interest-bearing accounts?
4.8, no matter what's been said.
No matter what?
What's been, we don't have 7 million in savings.
Nope.
That's what you said.
Nope, I pulled the
That's
balance
what's on
sheet.
the propaganda sheet.
Oh, on the day that, I was asked what we had in the bank, I looked at your balance sheet.
That includes the payments of darn near $1 million.
And the same one was what I had emailed to Dwight.
We don't have 7
Yeah,
million in
but the
cash.
$800,000 worth of bills weren't paid that month, were they?
Well, they're paid every 2 weeks.
No. Well, I'd like to know how you come up with 7.1.
Well, 7.1 is the money we had at the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
We're down
Okay,
$853,000.
let's walk back to your sheet, Darby, if you, I'll just, for my own. So you had $4.8 million in interest-bearing account,
At CDs and investments.
so then you subtract that from the 62,
You
60.
don't subtract, well, you can.
Yes, that would give us our working capital, correct?
You can,
Can somebody punch that out for me, please?
yeah.
6269, 046 total?
Well, you should have, this is what you have. This is your Lincoln, North Dakota, this is that.
I know, you gotta add them up or else we subtract it out, so either way we'll do it right.
You add up the 6.2 and subtract your 4.8.
That's what I just want something about it. Anybody got a calculator? I'll do it manually here, hang on.
Your phone calculator still work?
Yeah, it does.
In savings.
As we have a little bit of silence now, like with the campaign letters now, you kind of mentioned something about a propaganda sheet or something, what,
All the sheriff's departments,
That sheet I give you,
the one you gave me?
yeah,
it says, the auditor says there's 7 million in
I see,
savings.
okay.
Not in savings, that's the,
That's what the letter says.
So, at one point, at 1.469, I guess, in order to really look into this, we'd have to go into the trial balances and see what's left on every single fund.
Well, Shanna should be
I do-
matching
We do that.
the
It was
six
just
point
done
two
yesterday.
nine every month.
Yep.
When they finish their apportionment,
Yep. It matches to the penny.
our September carryover is 6.2.
Every fund in the county equals a 6.26904640.
So that's
Okay.
the cash that the county has on
Total.
hand at
Okay.
that given date.
Shanna, I've done this exercise, and I've even brought it up a couple times, and I can't get it to match. So what I'm gonna ask you to do, to provide me a trial balance report.
You don't do it off the trial balance, you have to use the balance sheet.
Why can't you use a trial balance?
Well, you can, but you have to make sure that you use all of it with all of the political subs in there. I'll have Gwen email you of exactly what numbers you need to calculate. It's simple, but I'll have her give it to you.
Give it to me once,
Yeah.
and maybe I'll remember how to do it again, I'll look it up. So, what we're saying here is we have $1,469,046 in our working capital. Subtract that 4.8 million.
Yes.
Okay,
But you also have $1 million in that instant cash sweep fund, ICS, that was tax money, that was moved because of pledging. So there is $1 million in this account that can be used for this.
but that's included in these
That's
numbers.
included in that number, yes.
Okay. So, this is the question. When I see this report, and it says that our payments have exceeded our receipts, and this is, it's consistent every month that I've gotten this.
The last 2 months though, we actually not overspent, if you look at it. If you're looking at the actual.
So you're saying August, our payments,
Yeah.
our payments
And
were less?
July.
In July, so it wasn't the last 2 months, but okay, there were 2 months in there. Okay,
This is the money in, money out.
yep, yep.
And if you take the 7.1 million we carried over from December 31st, and you subtract this what's on the balance sheet right here. That will give you the same. All this sheet tells you is you're $853,000 less money than you had to start the year with. It doesn't tell you that you've overspent. It doesn't tell you that your accounts are,
Right,
there's no money in it. What it is telling you is you have less money than you started with. And that 7.1 million was the carryover from
Okay, so
December 31st.
that 853,533, that'll be the same number that we have less than we started the year with?
Yes. If you take the,
Well, that makes sense, yep,
yep,
okay.
and that's what that tells you, that sheet tells you. And we use that sheet as a kind of a cross-reference, the payments in, the payments out, and you subtract the beginning of the year dollar amount from what you're carrying over to the next month. And that's our check and balance.
Okay. Does anybody have any more questions for Darby?
It does tell you that you are usually outspending your income per month, even on some good months. But a lot of that is apportionment, and that goes out to the schools and the cities too. Dan, today?
Nope.
called me yesterday, he said, well, I texted him, yesterday, said he was not feeling well. Okay, but he might make it, he said. All right, so there'll be no further questions. Darby, thank you for your report, unless there's something else you want to share or update us with. All right, thank you so much.
I gotta go out and toe back, and I'm very happy. All the tax increase.
Okay. Next thing on the agenda is revenue and expenditure estimates for 2020. I put that on there. Because on the middle of June, it was, and numbers move, I just need an explanation, that's all. This isn't, I just need an explanation how things are working here. Middle of June, we had a projected negative balance in our general fund of $123,331. .98. Okay. That's for Shanna's worksheet that she gave us. On, well, we've gotten two since then, but the latest one is on 8/18.
You got a new one on your desk this
I
morning.
know, but we didn't have time to review that. My notes are from the one that I had at home prior to the meeting. But we'll get to that. We're not gonna ignore it, that's for sure. The one that I had on 8/18 says we're going to have a balance of we're gonna have positive balance of $9,210, which is good news. My question is, where did we get the revenue for that to change basically in 2 months' time?
Well, at the beginning of June, we were notified that our state aid was gonna be dropping 15 to 20%, and I went to my auditor's convention at the end of July, and Joel Morissette from the OMB was discussing the state revenue trends, and said that we were still trending right on track, and didn't see the 15 to 20% drop happening.
So you're saying that the report that we had on the 16th reflected
A drop in state aid.
an anticipated drop, okay? And which fund, which revenue streams?
The state aid.
Just the PPR state aid? So the report at, on 8/18, state aid was put back to projected values? Okay. Okay, now we're gonna talk about both sheets here, the one on 8/18 and the one in front of us, because I see there's some corrections that have been made on there. On the one on 8/18, and I'm just talking about the left-hand side, I'm not talking about the budget side, okay? That's all I'm talking about right now. The one on 8/18 had several funds that the revenue and the expense was equal. And to me, I didn't understand that. Like Water Resource Board, it said July through December, we're gonna have an expense of 42.2.
Well,
Yeah, let me, I'll just show this up.
I-
Then we're gonna go to this sheet.
but I can explain it.
Right, let me finish my sentence. On that sheet, it showed that we had 42.2 on revenue, and on expense, we had 42.2. Now, Shannon can explain it, it's probably on this new sheet. Go ahead.
So when you got that sheet, the one you're reading off of, that was actuals from January to June, which is half of the year. So you'd be expecting to bring the other part of the revenue in on the last half of the year. That's how that works. Now, if you look at the sheet that I gave you today, it's through August month end. So it reflects a higher actual value and a projected smaller value. Those are projections. The only thing black and white on that sheet is the actuals column. The very first column that says balance as of 8/31/20. That's the only thing on that sheet that is an actual. The rest of it is a projection. That's why it's called a fund balance projection. There's unknowns. There's unknowns on the expenditures, there's unknowns on the revenues. It's unknown, just like the public safety fund has a balance of $682,000. On the last sheet, I think it was supposed to have a balance of $2,000. We received CARES funding. Things are unknown. So this budget sheet is a projection.
You got it, does it help? Social Security technology. Social Security technology
There's nothing in there.
has a negative balance, actually, negative balance of $11,196.
Well, that was the money that was budgeted to be transferred out of there. It doesn't have a negative balance, it has a zero balance, and $11,000 was transferred out of there.
It was transferred out?
Yeah,
When?
this year. That and comprehensive health, whatever was in the budget on the transfer sheet to be done this year. I didn't know we were getting into full-fledged budgeting here.
Okay, when I take your information when I take information that is provided, I'll go home and I'll try to understand what it's trying to tell me. And that's why I come up with these questions. But if I look on the Mercer County Detail Expenditure Report dated July 1, 2020, for Fund 2930, it says we have an unexpended balance of minus $11,196. That's different than this sheet, and that's why it brings up the question. Now, you just said we had a zero balance in there.
It is zero, because we took the money out and put it in the general fund according to the transfer sheet that was in the budget for last year.
Then why would my,
So that's why the balance as of 8/31/20 is zero, and I'm projecting zero revenue to go in there and zero expenditure to go in there. This balance isn't as of January 1st, it's as of August 31st. So it is zero.
this sheet that I had dated 8/18 cannot be for the end of August, it has to be for the end of July.
It's probably the end of June. What does the first column say? It should say balance,
6/30/20.
okay, and that was the balance in there as of 6/30/20.
6/30/20, okay? Same question I have then. When I look at my you said that the balance is zero. When I look at my expenditure report, it's dated July 7/1/2020, so that should be through June expenditures, right?
Yep.
It shows an unexpended balance of minus $11,000. You're saying it's zero. I'm just saying that I have two different numbers, and you're saying it's not zero. It's, according to this expenditure report, it's minus 11,000.
Well, yeah, because 11,000 was taken out of there. That was the balance in that account.
So why wouldn't it show zero?
Because 11,000 was spent out of there. You're looking at the detailed expenditure report, not a balance sheet. So if you flip to your trial balance, it'll be zero on your trial balance.
Mr. Chairman, we're off at the end of times here.
I know that.
Okay.
What did we start the year with in that fund?
The 11,000, I don't have my trial balance with me.
Okay. Okay. That's the questions I had on the revenue expenditure report. When I got the report, I compared it to other information that I have, and the numbers don't marry up, so I'm gonna ask questions, and I will be asking them.
Do you wanna come back to this later?
No, I'm done with that.
Oh, okay.
We're good. 10 o'clock, we're on the hall agreement with Tracy Howards.
Lori Hilberts is right.
Hi.
Hi.
Sure you gentlemen got my letter a couple of weeks ago.
Yep,
I was
you
gonna be
should've.
here, but I
Yep.
had to decline because I had surgery, so. So I think we're at a standstill at this point, because after my husband and I reviewed it, and we reviewed it with, our attorney and some other people, I mean, we have found this request to be complete nonsense. I mean, this county road is used by other farmers for the same things. Yet we're the only one being asked to have a road maintenance agreement. And our question is, who's policing this? Who's policing who's doing what to the road? As it's kind of laid out on the questions here. And clearly what my husband was provided by Tim, I believe, or whoever provided to him months after it was requested, was for a contractor, for when something is being built. Has nothing to do with farming. There's nothing in North Dakota Century Code that requires this. There's no precedence on this whatsoever. So I'm just wondering, why is this even a requirement? Why are we being singled out and penalized for this? I don't know the train of thought or the mindset here. And if we are, then I feel like it's discrimination of sorts, and my husband feels the same way, and that every single farmer that lives on that road should have to sign the same agreement. We all have to pay permit fees for overweight vehicles. We all do the same things. And who's policing it? You know, if somebody does significant damage, yes, I agree that that should be something to be taken care of, but who's out there to see that it's us, or it's the farmer down the road, or it's some other person using the public county road? So we're just, Tracy and Lori Hohartz is just responsible for any person that uses the public county road? That's plain ridiculous nonsense.
Jessica, you wanna offer any opinion on this, please?
Let's do some historical review of this, for one thing, okay? First of all, as it relates to being singled out, that is not by this board. In 1999, the legislature specifically pulled out feedlot operations because it is different from standard agricultural practices, so to speak. And so the Department of Health was put in charge to look at odor, all those sorts of things. So that's where the authority comes from. And in doing that, Mercer County adopted the model ordinance that was put out by, that whole endeavor by the legislature. In that model ordinance, it refers back and does not infringe upon the board's authority over the roads. That's left to the local authority, okay? Now, this feedlot operation is a conditional use under our zoning ordinances like others are, okay? It distinguishes operations of regular agricultural producers, which admittedly a feedlot operation is. By definition, under the statutes, under definition of the ordinances, that's why it regulates things like odor and all those sorts of things, okay? Now, as a conditional use, we have a process that goes through for approval of those. And there's the, you know, this isn't unlike some of the other operations we see, and the road use is one of the issues. So, to that end, this was approved with, the provision of the Hall Road Maintenance Agreement. To that end, Ken has the boilerplate, that's how this started and whatnot. It came to a head over the dust control. That's where Mr. Hoverts wasn't agreeable to the dust control. Now, that's where we're at an impasse, in that agreement, as I understand. But now that may have changed, and now seemingly they're not in favor of any of it. But that's why this was put on there, because it is distinguishable from standard agricultural operations. We can't prohibit those sorts of farming and ranching, operations, which this is distinguishable from. So that's some of the statutory ordinance history, as well as this specific history. So as I mentioned last time when this got brought up, it's up to you guys what you wanna do with this hall maintenance road agreement. It came to a head when the landowner and the highway superintendent couldn't resolve it. Typically, that's where it's taken care of, and you guys don't see those. But that's where we're at as, you know, the impasse here. So, it's up to you guys. It's conditioned on that Hall Road Maintenance Agreement. That was a condition from planning and zoning, moved forward to here, has been throughout. So the exact terms of that is gonna ultimately be up to you guys, because Ken didn't wanna agree to something different, because hall maintenance road agreements were, like I said, are pretty standard typically. As far as the
Well, I can
policing
point
and all
out,
that,
there's not another feedlot in the state that has one.
we don't have another one in Mercer County either, so this is novel for us as well.
Yeah.
And that's where it was contingent on that this is how the hall maintenance roads agreements work within our county. So that's why we're here now, for the board to decide how they wanna handle it. As far as the policing and all that kind of stuff, we have hall maintenance roads agreements throughout the county for all of our different industry and whatnot. I think Ken can attest that there's to be something to be seen for something over normal wear and tear. The truck traffic and all those sorts of things is gonna be more, as I understand, than the regular too. And we are in a construction phase right now, so that is, I expect, gonna be a different in traffic level. Right, cause right now you're pouring cement and all that kind of stuff. Once we get into operation, obviously that'll change the pictures as well, correct?
Well, I mean, cattle's there for 45, 60 days at a time. I mean, it's just like farmers moving cattle in and out of their property.
But right now you're in a construction phase, correct?
Right, as
Yes.
if you would be
Which will-
constructing any kind of other facility, as if you're constructing a home or anything else.
Well, this is a little bit more substantial than a home.
It's a barn.
It's a
It's a
big
containment
concrete.
barn. Yeah,
Agreed.
it's a bigger barn, but it's not like we're building a big gigantic football stadium.
It's up to them to decide how they wanna handle it.
Absolutely it is, but I'm just saying, any other feedlot in the state of North Dakota, there is not one of these in existence. So I guess it is up to them, but it's gonna be something that I feel that, would probably end up in litigation.
Okay, it may or may not be, we'll figure it out later. Jessica, help me out a little bit, this Hall Road Maintenance Agreement, what are some of the specifics of that? One of them has to be weight limits, right?
Well, some of the provisions,
Just get to the bullet items.
yeah, there was, some changes made on, already, that it only pertains to County Road 18 from Highway 200 east to, 200 alternate County Road 18, approximately 3 miles, so it designates that section. There's the notation about the ag permit, you're allowed up to 90,000. During frost lots road is 65,000. Trucks max speed of 45 miles an hour. Any loads over 90,000 will have to be permitted with the county highway superintendent. Those are the ones that were written in. The other terms, that are the boilerplate, so to speak, the dust suppressant, as I mentioned, was crossed out. But then that Mercer County agrees to provide road maintenance as part of its normal operations to the extent possible. If Mercer is unable to provide adequate maintenance, Mercer agrees to contract for additional road maintenance services necessary to keep those portions of Mercer County roads in county standard condition as necessary for Whole Hertz business operations. Whole Hertz agrees to pay for any extra maintenance required to keep those portions of county roads at county standard for unusual or extreme damage due to traffic related to the operation, as well as any other costs incurred by the county for this operation.
Okay. And you guys can pitch in anytime to help me out here. Can I get your first name, please?
Lori?
Can I call you Laurie?
Yes.
Okay, Laurie. What specifically are you in objection to as far as what Jessica just read? We talked about weight limit. Is that a concern?
I'm not in objection to what we currently are required to do as a farming ranching operation, as
Okay.
any other farming operation is required to do. When we exceed weight limits, we're required to get a permit.
So you're not in objection to the weight
No,
limits
we're
proposed?
required to do that right now.
Okay.
Those are existing requirements.
Is there any objection to what was suggested, that if there's any additional maintenance required, that you guys would assist with paying for that?
I'm in objection to doing any existing maintenance that's not caused by us. And I'm in objection to who is determining that and policing it, and who's determining who's causing it.
That's very fair. Okay. Are you in objection to the dust clouds
Absolutely I am.
for that 3-mile stretch?
I am.
Okay.
There could, my car causes dust as a normal citizen driving down that road. Nobody controls the dust at this point in time.
Because if we know specifically what the areas of concerns that we need to deal with, I'm not trying
Right.
to be argumentative,
Absolutely,
then we
But-
can walk forward through it.
absolutely. There's
Okay.
no dust control currently at all.
Okay. Is there anything else that, what do you call that? What was the term you used for that agreement? That bullet item, or what do you call it?
That's the boilerplate?
Boilerplate.
I mean, basically, the way that agreement reads is that Mr. Miller could go out at any time and say, oh, yeah, we need this and this and this and this and this done. Here's your bill, Mr. and Mrs. Hohertz. And we have no say-so. Anybody could have done those damages.
Okay.
County Commissioners, I'm Jason Wertz from the.
Please, wait, please. Okay? If you want to be recognized, let me do it. Don't, let's just charge in here, please. Interrupts my train of thought. I'm not that sharp. Definitely not that sharp. So, with what, Lori, right?
Yes.
I better write it down, doggone it. With what Lori just stated, do you see any way that we can possibly reach some kind of mutual agreement?
Well, I have no doubt we can, it's just the specific of what terms you wanna include.
Uh-huh.
That's, I mean, you guys gonna be entering the contract, so whatever provisions you like, it's up to you.
Okay. Would this have to go back to planning and zoning?
No. The haul road maintenance agreements, typically the highway superintendent does, but like I said, without him being able to do that, whatever terms you guys would like is what I'll include.
Okay. Mr. Howard, you had a comment?
No.
Excuse me, Mr. Commissioner, I'm Jason Wertz from the North Dakota Department of Agriculture. Doug Dorian, the Agriculture Commissioner, provided you guys a support letter.
Step up to the microphone, please.
Excuse me. Mr. Commissioner, I'm Jason Wertz from the North Dakota Department of Agriculture. And the North Dakota Agriculture Commissioner, Doug Goring, provided you a letter in support of the Whole Hertz feedlot. And I just wanted to bring to mind that this is an agricultural facility. I know the attorney mentioned that it's different. It's not different. It's an agricultural facility. It's not commercial, it's not industrial, it's an agricultural facility. It's family owned. And the Whole Hertz's pay taxes here in Mercer County, and they're no different than a small grains farmer out here using the roads on those trucks. There's not gonna be a large amount of trucks. A feedlot, unbeknownst to most people, a lot of people have this fear that there's gonna be trucks daily coming down that road. It's gonna be a truck here and there coming in there. It's 2,000 head. Truck of
That's what we have right now.
80, 90 cattle are gonna come in there. Maybe, in 1 week. Next week, there might be nothing. 2 weeks from there might be 2 loads. It's not gonna be a steady stream of trucks. And I stress that they pay their taxes here in Mercer County, and it's no different than any other agricultural, use for those roads. We don't charge, any of the, small grains farmers for hauling their grain off the fields. It's no different than hauling feed into that feedlot.
Okay. Thank you,
But
sir.
if you have any questions, you're sure welcome
Bring
to.
you back up, please. Ken, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, and Jessica, when was this agreement entered into? I believe that was probably before I came on the commission, you know, if I can,
319.
What,
March 19th.
which agreement, or what do you mean?
Well, you had some kind of agreement for this whole feedlot operation, right? And
It
then-
was,
and
Are you
that-
talking about the permitting?
Yeah, well, I'm talking about this particular issue right here.
This maintenance agreement, I'm not sure that.
Nothing was,
Ken would have
nothing
to-
was agreed upon.
Right.
The permit was issued back in April of 2019. We didn't get anything from the road superintendent until 2020,
Okay,
like at the beginning of this year.
okay.
So as I understand it though, the condition of this permit was that haul road maintenance agreement, which include the boilerplate items that you gave us, right?
Well, it included an agreement. Yep.
Okay. Mr. Miller, would you mind coming up and let me ask you a couple questions? We're just gathering information. No, take the other one there for social distancing, if you would, please. Not much difference, but a little bit. The question I have is, Lori's got some valid questions, and we're just gonna discuss it. What do you see as part of this haul road maintenance agreement was if the damage is in excess, that they have to assist in making those repairs on that 3-mile stretch? Is that correct?
I've talked to Tracy and he said if he wrecked it, he would fix it, is what he had said. Which I mean, that's what he said. Why wouldn't he? I mean,
I
so
know, and I know my
Good,
husband,
let's just,
if he's gonna,
okay.
if
One at
it's
a
wrecked
time.
by him, he would help in fixing it.
Okay, the question that I heard, unless I misheard, is that, well, there's other people using this road, how do we determine whether he did that damage or not did the damage, if it came down to a serious discussion?
I mean, you'd have to try to prove it. I mean, if you can't have it 100% that it's coming from Tracy himself or his operation, how can you point fingers? I
That's
mean,
what I'm thinking.
right. If it's not coming where he didn't have no traffic out there, how can you point fingers at anyone? I know you can't point fingers at him, you know?
So we have an agreement basically that if he admits that he caused that damage, he'll help pay for it.
Right.
Is that pretty much,
but my problem, sir, with that is, the way that agreement is written, it doesn't say, well, if we can determine or whoever decide. That's not the way the agreement is written legally. The way that agreement is written, it's basically, if the county comes to us and says this needs to be repaired, we could be charged for it.
okay, so.
Well,
know what I'm
it's-
saying?
It's
It's
not like-
general language, yes.
Terminal.
How it comes in application, as Ken said, we'll have to determine.
You know, it's not
as
like
it
the
is.
good old
Ma'am,
boys
just
saying,
second,
hey.
please, just second, please, you stated, I hear you, you've got a valid point, go ahead, Jessica.
It's general language, that's where the legal terms and the issues would become the unusual or extreme damage. And that's where Ken would look at it. It remains to be seen if that would even become the case. And, I mean, if you're looking at a scenario where you got huge ruts that lead right out of it, versus work, you know, or down the road, the gravel issue, all these sorts of things would have to be looked at. So, as is, are most agreements, it's the general language. Application, I don't know.
Okay, so Lori, the way I see it, those terms protect the county and the county taxpayers and that road. However, we would have to prove that and be very obvious that you guys caused that damage before there would be any concerns coming back to you to help repair that.
I understand, sir, but then that gets into a very ugly situation.
It may or may not. It may or may not. Ken said he's visited with you. And
Yeah, I know those things.
we have to protect our county.
I get that.
Okay, so that's why that's in there.
Well, then I just feel if we're so into protecting our county, then every farmer on that road, if we have to have a road agreement, I would feel so much better that every farmer on that road would have to sign that same road agreement.
They didn't have to get zoning and permitting approval, and it became a condition of the zoning
Yeah,
permit.
and ma'am, this is specific to your application. We're not going to bring in everybody else in the county, okay? We had an
Okay,
agreement.
well then,
We have an agreement, so, and a permit, and that's what we got there. So, Ken, next question. Dust.
That is one of the concerns, and that is why this is where it's at, but, you know, my question is this, until we actually see what this operation's gonna do as far as dust control, you might be right that it might not be that much dust, but there's people that live along that road, and I know there's people that live along every other country road. But we have gravel pits, we have other industrial pits, that we have to have that in there, and when this flagged it as commercial, that was why I put this in here about dust control. We have it on other pits with dust
Okay.
control. So why, if this is a commercial operation like it says it is, or if it's not, I don't know, it says it's a commercial, so that's why I'd flag it like this. If I get a bunch of calls from the people that live along that road that it's so dusty you can't see, what are our options?
who flagged it as commercial? It's not commercial.
It's listed that way in our ordinances.
I don't see it on our permit as commercial.
It was approved as a commercial animal feedlot and feeding operations under chapter 3.
Not on, the permit that I received does not indicate anywhere that it says commercial. The conditional use permit. Certificate of approval of conditional use does not show anywhere
Well, if we
on
can't
here
agree that it's
commercial.
permitted under the applicable chapter within the zoning ordinances, then it's not even properly zoned. So
Well,
I
I'm just
think,
saying it doesn't say that on here, so.
Okay, well-
And it's
Okay.
not commercial,
Okay.
it's for, it's not commercial. So
Lori?
maybe we need to get it rezoned.
there's
Maybe
no
that will solve this whole
alternative.
problem.
There's no alternative to it.
Lori, we're almost fixing something that isn't broken. We're anticipating a problem that may never come. And when that problem comes, the resolution might not be as hard as what we're doing right now. We might be able to resolve it that easily. But we do, the way I see it, and I'm gonna let Jessica correct me after I make a statement here, and feel free to do so. We have an agreement. And that was part of our conditional use. Now, I'll ask the other commissioners, is there anything that we wanna change on this agreement? Right now, the only thing that I'm concerned about a little bit is the dust. But, I agree with Ken, that if we get a bunch of complaints and it's coming from those trucks, that we're gonna deal with that situation individually as it occurs. And it may not be a problem.
Okay, we had a conditional use agreement, sir, that we were supposed to get a conditional use agreement from you people, the commission,
The board, yeah.
okay? We get one almost a year later, and we don't even know what the verbiage is supposed to be in it. And then we get it to review, and we're not in agreement with it. And so you're to tell me that we aren't allowed to rebuttal that?
No, you absolutely can. That's what
Okay,
you,
so we're rebutting that.
that's exactly what you're here for today.
Exactly.
Okay.
So you're sitting here telling me now, well, we have an agreement, so that's too bad, Mrs. Hohertz. That's what I feel like you're telling me.
I wouldn't use those words, but we do have an agreement. We need to resolve the
But-
issues that are in that agreement.
Well, I
If
don't
you
feel
just
like
brought up
you're
a-
listening to me.
Yes, ma'am, I hear everything that you're saying. I possibly don't agree with everything of it because we do have an agreement. The question about whether you were knowledgeable of what was gonna be in this permit prior to signing the permit, I have no knowledge of that. And if the permit is, Jessica, do we have a legally signed permit from them? Agreement?
Technically, it's not in effect until the Department of Health issued their stuff, which I believe they've now done, and until that Hall Road Maintenance Agreement is executed. So,
And what Hall Road executed means that
until
commissioners,
something is finalized, right,
that would be this board right here.
right, that's where we're at today.
What we want to finalize in that Hall Road agreement,
Correct.
correct?
Mhm.
Okay, so let's get down to the Hall Road agreement. Let's take
Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead, Dwight.
I believe this to be a farming operation. I don't believe that there's any commercial involved. The people are gonna feed out their own critters. As far as dust and traffic, whether there's cows coming in or cows going out or corn going to town, I don't foresee a big increase in traffic. Now, to me, it looks like they are being picked on. If you wanna look at the road agreement, it says 45 miles an hour. That section of 18 has signage on it that says 35 miles an hour. No other place, right across the road, 18's in worse shape than it is there. There's no signage there that says it's 35 miles an hour. And with that, I'm gonna make a motion that we do away with the haul agreement on this permit.
I will second that.
We have a motion and a second to not ratify the Hall Road Agreement as a condition for this permit. Did I state that correct? Or go ahead, Dwight, say your motion. I just want to make sure we do it correct.
Well, let's be clear here, because it already was approved by this board with that condition. So I think the motion would be to remove that condition from the permit.
That's what
The permit or
I think that's
Strike,
what he said.
strike the agreement from the permit.
Do away with the Hall agreement on this permit.
Okay. Is that what you second?
Yes.
Okay. Is there any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman, again, for memory refreshment, was that particular, those particular items in the agreement within some of our policies and procedures that we have right now? So if we did remove that, then that would be going against our policies and procedures, or are we plowing new territory?
Well, again, this is the first feedlot we've got within the county. This would go against how it was initially approved. But it is kind of a novel thing because we haven't had one yet, so in that respect, it's potentially setting a precedence as well.
And you
So-
were saying it doesn't necessarily need to go back to planning and zoning?
No, because
For
you guys
rework.
ultimately approved the permit, so the terms of it, it's all entirely up to you. So if you now want to remove it, that's under your control.
Wayne?
Mr. Chairman, while they talk about cattle coming in and cattle going out, that isn't really the big issue. The cattle come in and they grow up to be big cattle and eventually they get sold. But I know the part that's the issue is the feed part. Them feed trucks have got to come in, you got supplement coming in, you have a lot of products that's got to come in and out. And what I'm referring to more or less is the dust issue. And I think somehow it should probably be a, what you call a modified type of road agreement to handle basically the dust issue. Today, it's dry, it was 90 last week, I followed the school bus this morning, you couldn't see for a long ways. If we got rain, you guys have no problem because it's taken care of, but you get a dry condition and then you have individuals that have health issues and the amount of dust that's gonna probably be generated is not so good. And how do we handle that particular problem?
How do you handle that particular problem when a farmer's combining? Right there on the road, right there.
Well, he's gonna be combining, but then when he's done, he's done. He is, are you gonna say when you feed your cow, you're just done and that,
Well, you feed in the morning and you feed at night.
well, how much feed is being raised on that particular property?
I would have to ask my husband.
I'm
All
sure-
of it probably.
I'm sure it's all hauled in. most of it.
Not all, no, not all of it's not all there, but yeah, some of it's being hauled in from our other ranch up the road.
Right. So. like-
But I mean,
like
you know, it's a-
Ken Miller said, now he gets a call from a resident down the road, and I got dirt in this valley for miles. What are we gonna do? I think it's a little bit unfair for the people that only haul a load or two, and, I gotta live with it, right? I'm just pointing things out here.
I get that, but we have currently about 2,500 head of cattle between that and our ranch that's just up the road. And we're hauling cattle already all the time.
Mhm.
And most of those people don't live, they're at least, they're not right up there on the road. They're at least 2 miles off the road. Mile and a half, 2 miles. I think one's 3 miles off the road.
No, not that far.
But they're
No,
not,
never.
Ken, they're not right
They're
there.
not off the road, right off the road. I'd say a half mile,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean,
Sure, a half
and we're
mile.
talking 3 neighbors. I mean,
So,
this is like
so we can't have a modified,
well, the dust, first of all, is a big issue.
Yeah.
That is a huge issue. And there is dust all over these county roads right now, no matter what. Like I said, my own car does, I have a car driving in front of me
I
that,
know, I
when
know.
I'm going to our ranch, that I can't see.
I live out in the country, I know, but I just
So, I mean,
want,
that's what happens when you live out in the country on a rural road.
but I don't have a big, feeding operation beside me neither. I'm just saying, it's good for today, but I'll tell you, down the road, this place will be full, and we're gonna be sitting here going, well, how did this happen now?
Okay,
Yeah.
just a second, please. Cindy, you had your hand up?
The one question that I have is if it's just like any other normal farmer doing grain or having cows, Dwight doesn't have to go to planning and zoning to get a conditional use, Wayne does it for his cows. Why do they have to come and get a conditional use if it's a any other normal person doing grain or having cows? It doesn't make any sense to me, it can't be like a normal
Because it was a
operation.
confinement barn. They
But-
had to go through the health department.
I know why, if it's like a normal farm.
Mr. Chairman,
You think
the
it's-
thing is, I don't have 2,000 heads sitting back here in the feedlot.
That's what I'm saying, it can't be like any normal.
This went through zoning as a it's stated as a commercial feedlot. Now, today, we have a discrepancy on that, but
Okay, is there any further discussion by the board?
I just want to clarify
Yes,
for a
ma'am.
second. The definitions do distinguish between animal wintering operations, which like a traditional ranching operation might be, and the feedlot definition is that it's confined for 45 days or more in any 12-month period. And I think that's a distinguishing factor. The operation periods, when you talk about moving the cattle, traditional ranching, it's gonna be set times in the year. This is more of a continuous. So I think that's why the legislature pulled this particular sort of operation out and allowed for additional regulation of it.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, all I'm stating is that I think there should be a modified, some type of dust control that if we see that there's an issue, how do we address this? Because I don't want my tax dollars out there to put in dust suppressant so the farmers can drive on the road. Where do we start and quit that little operation? Just throwing it out here.
Point's well taken, but we do have a motion on the floor. It did not include that, and we have a second. Is there any further discussion?
Well, if we look at the letter from Doug Goering, the agriculture commissioner, and he stated that additional fees as they should be treated as any other agricultural producer or taxpayer. Speed limit signs were put in place, I believe, to reduce the speed, to minimize the dust. I think how are you gonna, like Lori said, police this who's making the dust, if her car is driving down the road or somebody else. I think, well, I made a motion on this.
Seconded it. But hey,
Seconded.
Yep. Is there any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman, if we approve the motion, that is, taking the dust control provision out of it, right?
Taking out the road agreement, period.
The whole road agreement?
Yep,
That includes the dust suppression.
they follow the
The
same
whole
rule,
agreement.
same laws and rules as every other person does on the county roads.
So if it comes as a dust problem, then, the county is responsible for it, not,
Do you understand what a confinement barn is? Do you understand they're confined in a barn, they're not roaming around? So when they're feeding and everything else, I mean, they're like confined. So they're not like a bunch of cattle, like roaming around dusting up everything. It's cleaner than what they would be if they were like roaming around.
Okay.
No, the dust issue is specific to the road use, that's what they're.
Right.
Okay, I went to,
I'm just making sure everybody's
We're
aware
aware
of
of
what that is.
is there any further discussion by the board? Any further discussion? Shanna, will you read the motion, please?
To do away with the hall agreement on this permit.
Dwight, how do you vote?
Aye.
Dwayne,
Aye.
Merlin,
aye.
Wayne,
Nay,
I vote aye, motion passed.
Thank you.
Shanna, would you get the
Thank you for
permit
coming
number
in.
from Lori and
I
put
have
it?
it.
I already gave it.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, where are we at? Fuel tanks, Ken?
Yeah, I gotta find it here. I got a quote from Swanson Youngdale for the fuel tanks. If I can find it here.
Martin, can you guys make sure you speak into your microphones so that we're hearing out there? Madam Chair,
Absolutely, thank you, thank you, absolutely.
For $6,878, and this is only gonna be for one of the tanks and the stairs going into the containment area. And the other price was, I think, right under 30,000, but that was both tanks, the steps, and that was the sandblast. Swanson and Youngdale said that they have to take out all the fuel, clean them out. We got those manways in there, but we'd have to take all that fuel out. And the other company out of Bismarck said we don't have to do that, so I don't wanna risk. If we do it the one way, I mean, it's 30,000, right under 30,000 for both tanks. If we do it this way for the one tank and the stairs, and then next year, we'll see how this lasts and then do the next tank. And this is just to sand them down and put like a rust proofer over the top of where they sand it down, put a rust proofer over the whole thing and then spray it with that same type of epoxy. Is it gonna do as good as a job? Probably not as good as a sandblasting, because that sandblasting would get it all down, but the thing with sandblasting is we have to actually take all that fuel out of there, and that's kind of when we run our motor graders and trucks and everything else, then we have to go downtown or else have a bulk tank there, and like I say, we have to clean them tanks out 100%, so that's why I'd like to go this way. Like I say, it's the stairs and one of the tanks.
No, the reason they want it empty and the manholes open is they're gonna do the inside too?
No,
Just
no,
the
no, no,
outside?
it's just when they sandblast that with static electricity, I guess, it could ignite.
Now Swanson Youngdale is gonna sand it?
Just like with a wire wheel or, you know, yep.
But the one from Bismarck
They
was
were
the
gonna
one that was
sandblast it.
sandblast and not drain the tanks.
Right.
So they're not concerned about,
Well, they said they've done it before, but Swanson, they said, no, they drain them, so.
so 6,800 for one, so two of them
And-
would be under 15 grand then.
Right, and the
versus-
stairs, yep, versus
versus
30,000 for, well, it's right under 30.
Is there any cost savings for doing them both at the same time, or will they give us the same price on the second one?
Well, we
or-
would have to bid that next one, but, I don't know, I just wanna kinda see how this is gonna work myself, you know, if it's gonna last. I don't wanna put a bunch of money into that, you know, they said it will, but I don't wanna,
Well, I'll make a motion that we hire Swanson Youngdale to do one of the tanks for $68.78,
and the stairs,
and the stairs.
yeah.
Do we have a second?
No second?
Any discussion? I have one question. Is this tank on the ground?
Yep.
Yes, yep,
Is
in a
there-
containment area, right on the northwest side of our county shop.
So the coating, is there any concern with the part setting on the ground?
Any concern with what?
This is a coating, right? For painting this tank, right?
Yeah,
So they're not gonna paint the stuff on it's sitting on the ground, so is there concern with that eroding or corroding out?
So there's no skids underneath it to lift it up off the ground?
no,
at
it's
all?
straight on the ground.
So no clearance at all?
Mm.
So this coating will not,
Go underneath, no,
Right.
you'd have to lift the tank actually to get underneath there.
well, that's what I'm asking.
Right.
I wanna be very specific.
Yeah,
here.
it's, they're flat on the ground.
So we're just, the walls at the top.
Right, the walls on the top.
Okay.
They
Okay,
very seldom do paint the bottoms, even when they're new. If they're a vertical tank, they very seldom do paint the bottoms because they're thicker than the walls. So
I thought, okay, I thought they did okay, but anyway, that just was a question I wanted to ask. Okay, any further discussion? Any further discussion? Dwight?
Aye.
Merlin?
Aye.
Wayne?
Aye.
Dwayne?
Aye.
And I vote aye, motion passed.
Next is utility permit 1727. It's West River Telephone. They're trying to get fiber optic over to Dwayne Schwab residence up on the Hazen Bay Road. They're gonna go in our right-of-way in that same location where Dave Kitson and Mark Ziegler, and then go straight north and then go across, I think it's Keitel's approach, and then go straight west over to, there's a metal building over there, a steel building, that's Dwayne Schwab's, that's where they're gonna provide service. So they're gonna go on our road right away, they'll have to seed that ditch where they open cut that, and then they'll bore underneath Keitel's road and our Hazen Bay County Road.
I'll make a motion to approve utility permit 1727.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Dwight, how do you vote?
Aye.
Dwayne?
Aye.
Merlin?
Aye.
Wayne?
Aye.
I vote aye, motion passed. Next on the agenda is the landfill tractor bids.
Gotta sign this morning.
How's that new tractor or overhauled or rebuilt tractor doing? Good.
Yeah, we pretty much got everything east and north of 200 to right north of Golden Valley now, and then start going south.
Okay, you're gonna put today's date on there for me? Thank you.
Thanks, Ken. Are you ready for me to open these? I got 3 of them. Yes.
This second there. Before we're, next thing on the agenda is the tractor sale, landfill tractor. And I have a question on how we proceeded with that. Was this advertised in the local official county paper?
No.
Yeah.
Please, I'm sorry, I didn't see you sitting back there, Ken. I saw you come in, but I thought you left again.
No, it was not. It just went on BizMan because it doesn't cost any money to put it on BizMan.
I understand and I fully respect that, and I appreciate how close you watch the dollar and manage your business. The question that, we have an official, we have a North Dakota Century Code that says it has to be done in the official, in the newspaper. So, I'm gonna move that we reject these offers until this is followed 11/27/01 and 02. And it gets advertised in the official county paper.
Mr. Chairman, I do believe she had direction from the board to advertise this only on Bismarck.
It never said only on Bismarck. It said it could be advertised on Bismarck. I offered to assist, and she said that she didn't need any help. She could fully capable take care of that.
Okay.
We did not say that. So I have a motion that we do not accept any offers until this is advertised for North Dakota Century Code. Do I have a second?
Well, Mr. Chairman, how come you didn't tell her at that time, when she said she was gonna do it on Bismarck, to do it in the paper?
I assumed that the auditor was still going to follow the Century Code, and I didn't think of specifically bringing it up.
So you're putting the Lightman's on.
You asked me a question, I answered your question.
Do we have to?
I assumed that we were gonna follow Century Code.
Do we have to reject, or can we just extend the bidding period? Because we haven't closed the bids yet.
I don't see any reason we have to reject anything.
Mr. Chairman, we have a motion on the floor, it doesn't have a second yet, so maybe we need to have a second before we can continue with further discussion.
Okay, the motion on the floor, Shannon, will you please read my motion?
Do not accept any offers until this is advertised in our county official newspaper as per North Dakota Century Code.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Do I have a second? There being no second, motion failed. I want that motion put in the paper, though.
Now we can I'll make a motion to extend the bidding period for the tractor at the landfill until such time as it is done according to North Dakota Century Code.
Can you just make a motion, Dwight, to set the bidding letter?
Well, it'll have to be 2 papers, I'm sure,
Yep.
right?
Hold on, let me see here.
Second meeting in October, or at least the first meeting.
First meeting in October. You wanna do 11 o'clock on October
Fine.
7th?
Fine.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Who's gonna pay for the advertising?
You
I think it comes, well, I don't know. Yeah, I can't. I'm assuming it comes out of your budget, but I don't know that specific answer. It's just the law.
Mr. Chairman, Candy, you look a little disgusted. Is there something else you'd like to say?
No.
Or get some answers, or
No.
whatever?
Okay, we have a motion. Do we, Shannon, will you read the motion, please?
To extend the bidding period until October 7th, 2020 at 11 a.m.
I thought he said in there until advertised by the paper. Didn't you say something like that, Dwight?
Advertised according to Century Code.
Where do you want me to fit that in, before or after your
You
statement
can
of
put it at
extending
the
bidding
end,
period?
according to North Dakota Century Code.
Okay, now Shannon, please read the motion.
To extend the bidding period until October 7th, 2020 at 11 a.m. according to North Dakota Century Code.
Do we have a second? Do we have a second? I will second that motion. Is there any further discussion? Any further discussion? Dwight, how do you vote?
Aye.
I vote aye. Merlin?
Aye.
Dwayne?
I'll vote aye.
Dwayne?
No.
Motion passed. Thank you. Well, we can move into portfolio updates. And I'll start with Dwight.
Oh, really, I don't have anything. Fair Board meeting's next Tuesday, and Water Board meeting will be after our next meeting. But, were we gonna put that discussion on the agenda for this meeting? about the water board and not getting cost sharing on,
Yes, I put County 37 Bridge under the budget review.
oh, it's down, it's this afternoon?
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
Anything else? Anything else, Dwight?
No, I'm done.
Okay, Wayne?
Well, we just have, our weed board and airport meeting coming up, so at the time I have nothing to report.
Thank you. Dwayne?
Last week, we had an ambulance board meeting, big discussion on Blue Cross insurance for a few of the employees there, and we had the Blue Cross rep there in Zoom, and she sent out some information, so we're going to have another special meeting on Zoom to discuss the Blue Cross insurance. We also are looking to purchase a new ambulance, and we got several quotes, but no specs, what the ambulance service is looking for, and so that'll be under discussion at the next meeting. And the landfill, we did interviews last Thursday. There were no issues otherwise, I guess. That's it.
Okay, Merlin?
Basically, my report, or maybe question, is under the buildings and grounds area. And I know we discussed that, you know, if we have extra money, that it would go into the building fund to pay for this HAVAC system that we've got that's gonna be costing maybe $350,000 or more to fix. Jim was just wondering, you know, how we know for sure we're gonna do that, and when, and where that money may come from out of different budgets. I just needed some clarification on that, so that if time goes by and we say, well, we forgot to put money in there, or no, it got transferred to this or that, how we're gonna assure that we have it in there, because that is a big coming expenditure here one of these days. Just a question.
Okay. Anything else?
Nope, not at this time. I have something under the service contract, but that's another part of the agenda.
Okay. I have a question for the board. Cindy wrote me a letter, and I guess in my being so naive, our committee for the wind farm has been meeting rather aggressively, rather than one meeting a month and then wait till we have a planning meeting and then come back, trying to move this thing along. I'm breaking her budget. And that's the part I was naive. I wasn't aware that our committees actually get paid also. And her question to me was, excuse me, she said, what, you got a 2-year moratorium. What's the hurry to hurry up and get it done? And it's gonna, you know, if we don't have that much money in our budget. So my question to the board is, I got something in my throat here. How do we want to proceed with these meetings? The meetings are costing us $150 each committee meeting, plus mileage for the other 2 individuals. So, do we want to proceed? Where we're at right now is, and I don't want to get into 11 o'clock stuff, this has to do with my portfolio, or the committee meeting. What's your guys' thoughts? Should I have another meeting scheduled for tomorrow? And then we'll probably have everything written up after that meeting that we can present to the planning and zoning. We're anticipating we should be that far.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead, yes.
could you add it as a agenda topic for your planning and zoning? On your nights of your planning and zoning, that, you know, some of them you don't have a very heavy caseload. Could you have your committee meet
Absolutely.
8 instead of, you know, from 7 to 8 do your regular meeting and then the committee?
Absolutely, we can do that.
Or maybe an hour earlier, or however long it takes you?
We would lose 1 more month.
Mm.
because the meetings are once a month.
Right.
If we do this meeting tomorrow, we will be ready to present to planning and
Well,
zoning.
you've already went over budget, I think, at this point, and the meeting for tomorrow has already been noticed.
Mhm.
So I don't know if I would change that at this point.
Okay, good.
You know, with public, and if public wanted to be there and they've seen it on our website for the last week, they're gonna probably have made arranged to be at those committee meetings, so.
Thank you. I agree, but I do need, because I was instigating this budget overreach unknowingly, but I did. Something that everybody agreed to get this job done, but not do it all so quickly.
Yeah,
So-
probably no rush.
So, I would suggest that we move forward with our meeting for next week.
As high as I can get it. I'll ask them.
And I want to know, Dwight, how do you feel? For tomorrow, I mean.
Mr. Chairman.
Well, it's something to
you
be
guys
done,
speak right
it's something
into
that
it.
needs to be done, but
With your
I
mouse,
guess
it's
there's
hard
not
to hear.
really any big hurry.
I'm sorry, Dwight, what?
I said it's something that needs to be done, but I guess there's not any big hurry. I guess I'll leave that up to how the planning and zoning board feels.
Well, we're not going to talk to them before we schedule our meeting tomorrow, and this was, like I said, I didn't anticipate these committees. I know the planning and zoning gets paid, but I didn't anticipate committee members also were getting paid. Wayne, how do you feel? I want,
Well-
whether we should proceed with our meeting scheduled for tomorrow.
I would almost say you almost have to, you are advertised and stuff, the public probably have plans, so we're over already, so we just have to go.
Dwayne?
Well, your planning and zoning members or committee members are planning and zoning members, aren't they?
Yes.
One of them is.
Huh?
One of them is.
They get-
I'm sorry, yes, they both are planning and zoning members. I'm sorry.
Okay, so they would get paid, the meeting. I would say, since you have scheduled this, to move forward with it, and, you're far enough along so you can present it at the next meeting, zoning meeting, I guess.
Okay. Okay, I've been advised that people can't hear me probably because of the mask, so I'm asking everybody, especially the ones wearing masks, to put that microphone rather close. Does it sound better now?
Yes, you do, if the rest of them would do what you ask, it would work better.
Yeah. Sometimes you gotta throw rocks to get my attention. Sorry about that, so. All right, so Merlin, how do you feel about moving forward with that meeting for tomorrow?
Well, it's been advertised, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Get closer.
Might as well do it. I do agree with Dwight, though, you know, I don't know if we're, can you guys hear me through this?
No.
They can't.
That better now?
That's a lot better.
Okay, I'm unfrocked. No, there's, I don't know if there's any big rush with it, but I guess we can have your meeting tomorrow and go from there, and, again, it's gotta come to planning and zoning, and then back to here again, so as long as you got her advertised, you might as well do it, and then, maybe be more judicious with your meetings in the future, knowing that, you know, it is an expense that may not necessarily be covered by the budget.
Help me with judicious.
Means, think about it
Thank you.
more before we schedule a meeting.
All right, thank you. We will move forward with the meeting for tomorrow. That's all I have for my portfolio. It's 11 o'clock. Mr. Zeman is scheduled for 11 o'clock, and he has some questions.
I'd like to distribute a letter written by one of the landowners regarding the Garrison Butte project. It's been reviewed by a number of landowners, and the consensus among the landowners is that they would like to have a Richmond Plan Commission.
Right, just a second. Mr. Zeman, you gotta go to the mic and repeat your name and then your last statement at
Oh,
least.
okay. My name is Art Zeman. The letter that I just gave you was written by one of the landowners involved in the Garrison Butte project. And it has been reviewed by a number of the landowners, and the consensus among the landowners is that they would like to have it read to the county commissioners.
Go ahead and do so, please.
To Commissioners Marvin Schwer, Merlin Dahl, Wayne Enzi, Dwight Berger, and Dwayne Scherer. We read with great interest in last week's Hazen Star, the article about the Mercer County Planning and Zoning Commission's proposed new regulations regarding wind development. Although it was repeatedly stressed that this was a very preliminary proposal, it seems to be mostly out of the McLean County playbook and looks like a case of extreme regulatory overreach. Given the fact that there are already county and state regulations in place, why are we trying to reinvent the wheel? No one has yet presented any documented cases where those regulations have been inadequate. In the last few weeks, NextEra has announced development of a 500 megawatt generator field less than 50 miles away from Mercer County. The Standing Rock Tribe is also building a 235 megawatt field, and also Pine Ridge and Cheyenne River have very large projects in the works. All of these are competing for permits and transmission access, so if the Garrison Butte 150 megawatt field is delayed at all, it will be overtaken and not be able to be developed. In the meantime, coal generation is facing competition from natural gas more than anything. 18% of all natural gas produced is being flared and wasted, and it's all a stone's throw from the existing generators. MDU's Heskett Station is in the process of being decommissioned and replaced with 2 gas turbines that will employ 15 people instead of 150. The oil industry is proposing to build wellhead electrical generators all over the Bakken, and the 2,000 megawatt of generation at Cold Strip, Montana are slated to be totally decommissioned by 2025, and that facility burns subbituminous coal, not lignite. To say that the 150 megawatt Garrison Butte project is a threat to coal seems far-fetched. We would also like to address the meeting of July 1st that the landowners requested to discuss the proposed moratorium. We were not expecting to find an extremely large, well-informed, and well-organized group opposed to the project. We don't feel that meeting was properly conducted, from allowing a private individual to record the entire event and post it on his Facebook page, to not following the COVID standards that were presented to everyone that signed in at the door. One of the points that was repeatedly brought up by this group was that they were concerned about the landowners and residents needing to be protected from the developers' contracts. We feel that we as landowners don't need or want that to be a consideration. This developer has an established track record and has been very straightforward in their presentation, and we already have had Greg Lang to go over the contract and made changes according to our attorney's suggestions. Our families have nearly 6 decades of dealing with leases with the coal industry and feel that our ancestors were targeted and swindled by these documents. We'd be more than happy to sit down one-on-one and give you the details on those specifics. As landowners, we just got our estimated property taxes for 2020, and they showed a 6.5% increase. This wind farm would create revenue for the county without the county needing to come after us landowners with increased taxes to make up your shortfall. In addition, even adjacent properties that don't have a generator sited will receive annual payments, resulting in revenue to over 20,000 acres of Mercer County land. Let's not let the Garrison Butte wind project slip out of our hands due to political gridlock and we end up with nothing at all.
Thank you, Mr. Zeman.
So, gentlemen, the moratorium on the Garrison Butte project will accomplish exactly that. It will not threaten coal in Mercer County, and it will not save coal in Mercer County. Coal has its own future, as does every source of energy, and the reality is the future of coal is not bright. If you review coal's history over the past 10 years, then you could tell me, I would like you to tell me, how this 150 megawatt wind farm is jeopardizing coal. Coal is being jeopardized by the federal government and by gas, not wind. Coal's footprint in the energy industry will continue to shrink. Coal's footprint in Mercer County will shrink, and there's nothing that the Mercer County Commission will be able to do to reverse that. There's already one coal-fired plant in Mercer County that is being targeted, and that plant will be gone long before the Garrison Butte project, if you will allow the project to develop. As coal's footprint continues to shrink, and you do not allow additional energy sources to develop, where are you going to look for additional revenue? One thing you've already accomplished with the moratorium is denying a North Dakota utility such as MDU the opportunity to purchase Garrison Butte's project's power. And at this point, there is a utility that is interested in doing so. So, what will more restrictive ordinances and moratoriums accomplish other than sending revenue and projects out of Mercer County to another county? Oliver County, which has B&I, didn't seem to think that their wind farm was going to jeopardize their coal. I'd like to review with you, the commissioners, what Garrison Butte has to offer in the form of revenue. Well, these are approximate figures, but they're not exaggerated. Okay, one, $15 million in property taxes will be provided to local government, which would be Mercer County. Local landowners involved in the facility will receive approximately $22 to $30 million in revenue over the life of the facility. A significant percentage of that would remain in the community in Mercer County. Thousands of dollars of sponsorship support will flow to the community. As one example, the Hazen School Board, which has been contacted, would definitely welcome that additional revenue. 6 to 8 permanent full-time positions associated with the facility, generating approximately $360,000 of employment income each year without the loss of any coal jobs. So the moratorium will deny all of the above. As county officials elected to make good, fair, and comprehensive decisions, is that a good decision? Also, another item I'd like to address is when the county commission upheld or enforced, I'm not sure exactly which it is, the moratorium, one reason given was to protect the landowners. To protect the landowners. We feel that your idea of protection is more of an infringement than it is protection. If we felt as landowners that we needed additional protection, we would have lobbied for it. We definitely do not need anyone from McLean County advising the Mercer County Commission that the moratorium is actually, quote, the best thing that could happen to the landowners. In the meetings that I've attended, that's the most ridiculous statement I've heard. Why is McLean County addressing Mercer County business? I think Mercer County is quite capable of addressing their business. So I would like to ask the county commissioners to review their decision regarding the moratorium and to give that decision a comprehensive and fair review. MISO has made it clear that Capital Power's queue position is in jeopardy and could pull Capital Power out of the queue with the moratorium in place. So to hold their position, approximately a $1.6 million payment would be required. And that payment is not refundable. Up to this point, if the project doesn't develop, payments will be partially refundable. But Capital Power cannot make that payment with the moratorium in place. No company in their right mind would do so. So in closing, if you would be genuinely willing to give the project and the moratorium a comprehensive and fair review, I believe you'll recognize that overturning the moratorium is a better decision for the county as a whole. And that's all I have for now. I'd like to thank you for your time.
Thank you, Art. I'm gonna ask each of the commissioners if they have any questions for you. I'll just go down the line. Dwight?
Yes, have they ever come up with a buyer for the power and a way to get the power out of here?
That's a question that I don't have an answer to, but I can get that answer.
I'd appreciate that answer.
Just a second, please. We'll just let this, Wayne?
Yeah, I believe that was the biggest question in the whole process is how do they have a buyer and how will they get on the grid? And those things should be answered because, again, the landowner can sit there and be holding an empty bag, and these companies promise that they're gonna do these things, and, well, year goes in and year goes out, and your landowner has to make decisions of what he needs to do with his contracts too. So, I mean,
I
we're
believe
just
that-
trying to bump them to step up to the plate a little sooner if all possible.
I believe that Lad Erickson made that same comment about landowner holding the empty bag, and I think, Marvin, have you visited one of Capital Power's sites? I understand that you have.
Absolutely.
And what was your impression?
I stated at that time that they did a very good job with that facility up there.
Does that help answer your question?
But, yeah.
One other thing, earlier, I was kind of studying this. The meeting tomorrow, is that the subcommittee meeting for the planning and zoning?
It is a committee meeting for the wind moratorium.
And that is held where?
It's going to be at the Country Kettle in Beulah, 8:30 in the morning.
And is that meeting actually going to be held?
Yes,
Okay.
8:30, correct? It was at 8.
I think it's on our website under public notices. Every
Okay.
time there's a subcommittee meeting, it's always posted on that.
I believe it's at 8, I believe it's at 8 o'clock.
Okay. All right. And I will try and get an answer
Okay,
to your question.
just a second, please. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Jessica, I have a question on procedure.
Okay.
We held, and I'm not trying to stifle any communication, but I just want to know what's the order so that I'm not doing something improper. We held a public hearing on this, and we received testimony, and we're working on resolving some of that. What I see on the agenda today is just one name, Art Zeman, questions on wind moratorium. Allowing others to speak, are we violating any of the other rules that we had as far as, we had a public hearing and now we're going to have some more testimony?
No, it's a regular public meeting, so to
Okay.
be recognized by the chair like any other.
Thank you. Go ahead, sir. He had his hand up first.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question too.
Whoops.
Maybe after he's done, do the rest of us get a chance to ask a question?
I'm sorry.
So, go ahead.
Well, and to clarify, the public hearing portion of this is done. You're right. So this is just a regular public meeting. So the public hearing portion is completed.
Thank you. We don't need it. We'll stay in regular meeting. All right, go ahead, please.
Roy Rosh, I was just gonna answer your questions you talked about. They have a MISO tie-in with, at the GRE Stanton station, that substation. And when you talk about protections, they have 5 years to act on this, or them leases are over. These aren't like coal leases that go for 25 years. So when they say the time is of the essence, when you were talking about, do you need to do these subcommittees? Yes, because they are on cue with MISO. So
But-
if they don't get this moratorium reversed, then they can't find a buyer. They can't proceed forward. And they're tying in at the substation at the old GRE Stanton station. They have that in place already.
MISO's just a wheeler in Power Energy. That's still not who's gonna purchase the power.
But with the moratorium in effect, who's gonna come to you then? Who are you gonna get to?
Well, I would think they would come to you guys with that before they even started a wind farm.
Okay.
That's my feelings.
As landowners, we don't see that as the problem. So I don't need your protection there.
Do you have any more statements? Let's not interrupt. Let you give your statements.
But I was
first.
just gonna say, your question was that, they have that tie-in, they're looking to move forward with this, and if the moratorium stays in effect, when you said there's no hurry, that's false, there is. Because if this stays in effect, then this is gone.
I understand you're right. Okay, do any commissioners have any Roy, please stay there, please. You made a comment, so I'm going to give these guys a chance to ask you a question. Does anybody have a question for Roy? Apparently not. Thank you for coming back to
All
the
right.
microphone.
You're welcome.
Go ahead, sir.
My name's Mike Quinn. I presume I'm allowed to just make comments, is that correct?
Certainly. What's your subject, sir?
My subject is the wind farm and the future of this county.
Okay.
And I just sold my home, and I think I took less for my home than I would have if this county had a better future. And what I see happening here is what happened in England over 100 years ago, a group of people called Luddites. They tried to stop the new cotton weaving process from happening. They thought they could stop progress. So they went into the mills and they tried to destroy the weaving machines. It didn't work then, and it's not going to work now. My disappointment in this group is you have not figured out how you're going to replace the coal economy. I was born and raised in the coal economy, and I can tell you, you better be thinking of a way to replace these jobs and replace this economy. I was born and raised in the Ohio Valley. I saw the coal industry die, I saw the steel industry die, and now you have a depressed area because people didn't plan for the future. I think part of your job is planning for the future. And I hear all this discussion about how you're going to try to retain the past. I don't hear any discussion about what you're going to do about the future. There's a lot of other things you can produce power with. As these gentlemen said, you can produce power with gas, you can produce power with wind, you can produce power with nuclear energy. And you have people out trying to stop progress, but what I wonder is who do you have as a committee saying, what are we going to get in here to replace coal? Is anybody actively looking at new sources of power generation? You have one thing in your favor. You're at the hub of the grid. You are where the plugs get plugged in. What you need is a committee that says, can we be the front runners in new ways to store energy? Can we be the front runners in nuclear power? Can we do something of innovation? Going backwards to coal is not innovation. It's going backwards. Those days are over. If you people saw what's happening in technology, it's going to change the world, and you better get ready for that change. Otherwise, you're going to be sitting on a bunch of ghost towns here. But I'd just like to ask you people this one simple question. Do you have a committee planning on how you're going to replace the coal industry if it dies? Is there anybody being paid to look into the future, or is everybody being paid to stop the future from happening? Would anybody like to respond to that? Okay, those are my comments. I just think you all need to go home, open up your history book, look up the Luddites. They tried to stop the new modern weaving machines. They went in and busted them up. Put it simply, it doesn't work. The world changed, and the weavers that sat in their house weaving, they're gone and out of business. And you're going to be those weavers sitting in your house trying to sell cotton, weave the old way, and you're going to go broke. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Mr. Chairman, I have one quick question.
Go ahead, but please come up there so the rest of these commissioners can ask questions. I didn't mean to shut them off, but I did.
Somebody want to question me?
I'd like to apologize for not knowing each one of you individually, but I would like to clarify the question that I would need to ask Capital Wind or Capital Power to answer your question regarding the buyer.
Dwight Berger.
Dwight, I'm sorry. Okay, thank you, Dwight. So, if I understand correctly, your question is, does Capital Power have a buyer for their
For the power
electricity?
produced
Okay.
in this wind farm. And
Okay.
do they have transmission out of the area?
I think Roy already answered that. I know that they're in the queue. That I know. So they will have transmission out, yes. Okay. When I contact Bob Evans from Capital Power, I will ask that specific question, does Capital Power have a buyer for their power? I think, I do know that Capital Power has been in discussion with potential buyers. But in order to finalize a purchase, they have to have a project. So in essence, it's kind of putting the cart before the horse. But rest assured that I'm absolutely sure that Capital Power is addressing a buyer. But I will get that answer for you from Bob Evans.
Now, other board members that didn't get a chance to ask you a question, please do so. Stay there, Art.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I've got lots of questions.
Open the
I've
door.
got lots of paper, I'll write them down.
Okay, Art, in your letter that you presented to us, on the second to last paragraph, it talked about the coal leases, et cetera, and that folks were targeted and swindled by those documents, and that you'd be happy to sit down with one-on-one and give us the details. Well, you've got 5-on-1 now. Can you please give me and us the specifics that you were talking about?
I didn't write the letter, so I'm not well informed there, but to the best of my knowledge, what he's referring to here is coal leases that date back to the 60s and the 70s. So what do you think that those people are going to recognize from a 60s and 70s coal lease when their surface is destroyed and they mine that coal? What do you think they're going to be paid?
Well,
I don't know, but I suspect it's going to be a pittance.
Yep. Well, when we're talking with the wording targeted and swindled, but without if you have got specific documentation on that type of thing, what do you have to, really
So
justify?
would an old coal lease, would that satisfy your question as far as the documentation?
Yeah, and then how people got swindled, et cetera. And my other question is, you said that there's another plant in Mercer County that might be going down, another coal-fired plant. Which one is that you're?
I'm not at liberty to disclose that at this time, but it's not an exaggeration. It's not a falsehood.
Okay. That's all I had for Art.
Does anybody else have any questions for Art? Roy wants to answer. All right, thank you, Art.
Thank you.
Marlon, I was offered a coal lease, okay? When I had spoke with Capital Power, they showed up, offered me a lease, take this to your lawyer. We did, we went back and forth. Then it came down to, can you deal with it or not? Everything was in the lease that we had asked, what we had talked about. Some things they could change, some things they couldn't. But it boiled down to, is this what you're willing to sign? 6 months after, I was approached by North American Coal. Okay? Sit down at the table with them, kitchen table. And I look at them and I go, okay, what are you interested in leasing? Well, and I have about 7 quarters in a row. They wanted my 3 middle quarters. And I go, how does this make my life better? I go, you're gonna split me in half. And matter of fact, one of the quarters they wanted is right across the road from me. I'm talking like 500 to 600 feet away. And I go, are we gonna live here while you mine this, or are you gonna move us? And I quote, we'll take care of that when the time comes. Oh, no, we'll take care of that now. Okay, I go, well, how are we paid? Well, you're paid on a royalty. Well, how much coal is there? Well, we can't tell you that. I go, how do I know this is a good lease? We'll take care of you, just sign. Over and over again, I was told, just sign. We'll take care of it. We'll replace your land. With what land? Just sign. We'll take care of that when the time comes. I was told that personally. in a 45-minute, hour meeting. Then when I got the lease, everything is approximate. There's no concrete wording there. Matter of fact, how this words, I can lose money on the lease. And this was 6 months ago. And part of his deal is I go, when do you plan on this taking, when are you gonna be here? Oh, in a couple of years. Well, when I talk to my neighbors that have dealt with them, they're like, Roy, they ain't gonna be here for 20, 30 years. What they did then is they told them people then that we're gonna be here. But how the coal leases are written, they can hold them forever. The person that wrote that letter, how his lease reads, as long as there's mining operations within 5 miles, they can hold that lease. So when we want to say that predatory lending or there was nefarious, yeah, that's how I feel about it.
So North American Coal's kind of the problem with their leases and for relations, landowner
Well,
relations.
you look at it, you take a wind lease versus a coal lease, there's a whole different set of rules.
Okay. You have any more, how many more speakers want to speak yet today?
Well, I had a question, but.
Yeah, I was just answering his question. Okay.
Go ahead, Chuck. I'm gonna ask you guys to try to be as brief as you can. We have a
You
break.
can put a stopwatch on this, I'll be out of here in a minute. Thank you,
Right.
Mr. President, and thank you, Board, for taking me at this late moment. The question, Mr. Berger, that you had about do they sell the power yet? Or it seemed to me in the business's experience I've had, a letter of intent from a buyer of the power rather than a contract to buy the power might be sufficient evidence to ask capital to say, can you get a letter of intent, or, and forgive me if I don't know the acronyms anyway, the idea of having a letter of intent to purchase is awful good incentive to believe that it's going to be, a third party is going to be buying the power. I'm going to ask capital that question, or Roy or Art are going to ask, but a letter of intent might change my opinion if I were you perhaps to say, well, we've got somebody's name from a name of a company that's going to buy it. The second thing has to do with I went to the Planning and Zoning Board meeting. I would love to think that you would have intention to have a draft zoning, a wind farm zoning ordinance in your lap here before the commission by mid-October, because of the timeline in which the process you've heard enough about. But if the planning and zoning could have a draft on the table here for your consideration in middle October, it was my perception that would be helpful and encouraging for capital, knowing that you're getting really close to having the job done. That concludes my comments. Thank you.
Yeah, but, Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead.
I have a question for you.
Oh,
Question?
yeah.
Now, I know that middle October you're talking about is pretty good, but do you know, is there a deadline date for these wind power outfits to get subsidies back from the federal government?
I think there is. I think there are dates, and
So
I'm
there's
not privy to what
So
they
there may be
are.
kind of a
Yeah.
panic or a worry that, hey, if we don't get these things on here,
I think
our subsidy deadline may run out.
I think that the $1.6 million that they have to pay that's not refundable might have a no later than date on it. And so I think if talking of money and timing, that's why I'm suggesting, or at least have you give some serious thought to be able to push it along. It gives them hope that the commission is advocating and supporting, but we got to have the zoning ordinance before we can, when the ink is dried on the zoning ordinance, we probably can move ahead.
Okay, thank you.
You can use the chair if you'd prefer, sir.
My name is Gary Scheid, and I farm up north. And as far as that MISA agreement, I've been visiting with Bob Evans. He's kind of in charge of this Capital Power. And he says, if you guys wait for 2 years, this is going to go away. he says, we can't wait for 2 years because MISA won't wait that long. Couple of months, and we're gonna run out of that contract, and he didn't know if he could push them anymore. So if that runs out, he says, we're gonna have to do something else. My daughter is an attorney for the state, and she's a hearing officer for some of these hearings that they have. And she says they wouldn't put all this work into it if they didn't have contracts. You can't put that much work into it without having a place to go with this power. You know, they've got sites for the towers, and they've done all the studies, environmental studies and all that. You can't spend that kind of money without having things in order. So I don't think I would worry about that. As far as planning and zoning, you know, you guys have a few towers down in the southern part of Mercer County already. Why are we having to go through planning and zoning again? Aren't those zoned? Do we have to reinvent the wheel again? Why are we making it so difficult for them to, as far as setbacks and all those kind of things? Can't we go by what's being done on these wind farms? Is it because we don't want a wind farm here? It shouldn't be that difficult to come up with some standards for doing this wind farm.
Okay. Does the board have any questions for Gary?
Any questions?
Thank you, Gary.
Those are some questions I wonder about anyway. You gotta diversify your portfolio, guys, because if coal is indeed going out, I gotta say, you know, you'll never find an administration that's more for coal than what we've had. And still, he hasn't been able to stop the coal going down. Coal is going out. You know it, and I know it.
Thank you, Gary.
Okay.
Anybody else that wants to testify for the wind farms? There be no further
Mr. Chairman, you should said comment.
comment.
Because testify, because the people that were opposed before, probably still are, haven't had any opportunity to have any input either on this.
Yeah, again, this isn't a public hearing, there isn't
No.
anything on the table necessarily,
No.
it's just a public meeting.
Wrong word. So I'll
Unless
use
we-
those once in a while.
Unless we want to have another hearing.
Okay, if there be no further questions for the members that spoke today, and we've heard all of their comments, that subject is, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda. Next item on the agenda is lunch break. I'd like to have
What'd you fix for lunch?
we need a motion to recess.
Are we done with?
We're gonna recess until 1 o'clock. Pardon me?
Done with portfolios?
Yeah?
Yes? I crossed it, went up. We are in recess till 1 o'clock. That was painful.
Evidently, they got a grill and a beef